Time for sound design. In today's video, I will talk about my favorite drum sounds from drum machines that I often use in my own tracks. I will create some grooves with these drum machines in Ableton, and then I will also transform them by using effects and pitching up and down to take them into a different world. So let's get started. The first drum machine I want to talk about is the Roland CompuRhythm CR78, as you can see now. This drum machine from 1978, as the name suggests, is a classic. It's used by tons of different artists. I will link down to this drum machine in the description. And in Ableton, in the standard drum sounds that comes with Ableton, there is a kit that uses these sounds. And they sound like this. It's the kick. The reason why I like this kit is because it is a subtle kit with a lot of percussion, and you really can complement other drums by using one or multiple of these drum sounds. So let's go to Ableton and create some grooves and transform these sounds. So here in Ableton, I loaded up the C78 core kit. They of course changed the name a bit, but it is the same. These are the same sounds. So let's create a groove with the kick and snare first. Change the velocity of some of the notes of the kick drums. And also add some extra snares. Let's add some offbeat hi-hats. So the hi-hats in this kit are very sort of high, a lot of high frequencies in there, so I kind of lower them quite a lot. And there's no open hi-hat in this kit. Maybe we can add a cymbal. The cymbal kind of sounds like an open hi-hat. And I also really like the rim shot. It's very snappy sound, so let's add a few of those. So this is kind of a nice groove, but one of the things I like to do with this kit is to add some distortion over the entire kit to really sort of compress it and make it crunchy. So I'm gonna go to Effects, Drive and Color, and Pedal. Not, that's too much. I like to use the fuzz, but then use the dry wet to tone it down a bit, so maybe 60%. I'm thinking to lower the hi-hats even, because they are very sizzling. Then duplicate this track and freeze it and flatten it to audio. So now that I have it in audio and the distortion is baked in, I'm gonna pitch it down a little bit, maybe 2 or 3, just to give it a bit more body, and also gonna crank up the volume, maybe with a saturator or something like that. So first gonna pitch it down. Let's try -3. And that sounds okay. And then a saturator just to boost the volume a bit. I'm going to add an EQ as well, because there's a lot of high frequencies in here now. So around 7 kilohertz, and they hurt the ear a bit. So I'm going to narrow the Q. So yeah, this is one way that I would use the CR78, is the classic drum kit, by creating a simple groove, adding some distortion to it. And then either this is my main drums, or I use this in the intro or the break of a song, and I layer it with a kick and a snare that I either sample from a record, or I like to use the 909 kick often. So if you put a 909, like 4 to the floor underneath this, and then this is more like sort of a percussion loop on top of it, and then filter out the low end of this track, so you use the 909 for the low end. Going to drum machine number 2, that's the Oberheim DMX, released in 1980, and this has also been used on countless songs. And these are actually samples from an actual drum kit, burned into a chip, and then yeah, you can sequence it with the drum machine. So in Ableton there's also a DMX kit, and it sounds like this. The reason why I like to use this kit is, of course, it's a classic drum kit and it has been used by many people, so they're kind of familiar sounds, but they also work really well in the mix. The bass is not too boomy, things are not too high frequency or too prominent, and you can really transform these sounds as well. So let's go to Ableton, make a groove, and then transform it. This time I think with reverb and delay. So I loaded up the DMX core kit, that's what it's called in Ableton, and let's create a groove. Let's lower the tempo a bit, maybe 107. Let's put in some offbeat hi-hats. Let's actually put the open hi-hat in the second bar. Again, lower the volume of the hi-hats a bit. The shaker is really nice in this kit as well, but I'm gonna put them on the first one. Can we add the clap? Let's double the snare with the clap, but lower the volume as well. Okay, this is a nice groove, but let's take it to the next level with some effects. So I think a classic thing to do with this kit is to put some reverb on the snare. Create this big kind of 80s snare drum. So that's nice, but let's try some delay on the kick, delay on the snare. So if you only hear the snare, it sounds like this. And then I'm actually going to duplicate this, freeze it and flatten it to audio. And now that we have it in audio with the delay on the snare, I think now I'm going to add some reverb. Yes, this is what we want. And besides that, let's just pitch it down a pinch, maybe 1. The only thing I want to do now is change the transient, so I'm going to change this to 50, so the sounds become snappier. I'm going to change this to -1 again. Alright, so what I'm settling on is pitch it down to -1, change the transients so the sounds become snappier, and then add a 25% dry wet reverb on the loop, on the drum loop, and it sounds like this. So without the reverb, it sounds like this. You still hear that delay on the snare, but it is kind of snappy. And then with reverb, you make it big again. So yeah, these are two ways that I would use these drum kits, the CR78 and the DMX. Often I don't use the entire drum kit. I, for instance, only use a snare or a kick or a hi-hat and then combine it with sample drums from vinyl or from anywhere else, basically. And as I said before as well, the 99 kick drum is often one that I use for the kick, and then I use other elements from these two drum kits. Let me know in the comments what is your favorite drum machine sounds, either if you have the actual drum machine or just the samples like what I used today. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.